I've just done a video recently about 5 reasons the Tesla sales method is flawed, and the comments were, let's say, heated by Tesla fans who tell me the customer service I've received is not shocking, it's fine, it's completely acceptable. Now, I don't want to get into the big bash of why Tesla fans really need to wake up and realise that I'm not trying to bash Tesla. I love Tesla. I think they're a great company. I'm just trying to outline some issues they have and what they need to improve on. But don't worry, before you dislike this video, this is 5 reasons why the Tesla direct sales method is actually great. So number 1 for me, the main point which makes Tesla better than your average franchise dealer is all about staff training. And the reason this is important, Tesla only sell Teslas. They don't sell any other car used, they don't sell any other EVs, they just sell new Teslas and used Teslas, that's it. So for this, their training, their sales method is very straight. They are trained completely on Teslas, all about Teslas, and know everything about Teslas. If you want to know something about Tesla, go and speak to Tesla sales staff. They know the cars in and out because they're trained by Tesla directly, because they're all Tesla staff, and they're trained to what Tesla want, their actual level of training. If you go to a franchise dealer and ask questions about, an electric car that they're selling, half the time they don't actually know the information that you want to know. And it's not uncommon for electric car owners to go into a franchise dealer here in the UK or abroad, ask questions about an electric car that this franchise dealer is selling, and be told by the dealer they don't know the answers. And a lot of the time, you, the customer, know more than the staff, and that is not good. You should never know more than the salesman selling you a car. You should never know more than the salesman selling you the car, because their job is to explain the car to you. And if you know more than them, what benefit and feature have they added to you? Absolutely nothing. So staff training is very important, but also there's another level of this, which is the workshop. Their workshop only works on Teslas. So again, they're highly trained on fixing, repairing and knowing common faults. And they're only cars they ever see back, so they know exactly where the faults are. So therefore, you're going to save time in diagnostic issues and fixing issues. And issues do get sorted quicker because Tesla kind of know what their diagnostic methods are. They know where to check, where the faults are. So there is some serious improvements if you're just concentrating on one model and being trained directly by the company that own you directly. The second point why Tesla sales method is actually good and better is the same level of customer service. Now, if you watched my last video, which was the 5 reasons why Tesla's sales method is flawed, I noted customer service, and it's also in my advantages. And the reason why it's in both is because, yes, the service I received was terrible and there wasn't really much they could do to improve on bits that they did wrong, but Tesla will fix this. They would have more than likely had my video reported to them. They would have more than likely seen it. I made a complaint formally through the correct channels about the mistakes I made, and they will fix it. They will sort these issues and they will improve on them because they do care. They do care about not giving you bad service. So yes, it will improve, and when it does improve, that level of customer service will rise. Now, the problem you've got with franchise dealers is because they're all franchise, most of them tend to be big groups, and the big groups suffer with exactly the same problem as Tesla are suffering right now, which is you could walk into 10 different dealers and all 10 different dealers could be owned by the same franchise, and you will receive bad service off all 10 dealers. And that's just the pick of the draw. Now, the problem is these franchise dealers will bring down the whole brand issue. Now, if Tesla can raise their game and improve these customer service and sort customers' issues quicker and efficiently, it will link into one of my points that's coming up in a minute. And that next issue, which is my third point, is there's no blame game. And what I mean by the blame game is traditionally with other manufacturers, if you had a fault on a car and took it to the dealer and it was a particularly awkward fault to find or intermittent or a very rare fault, you'd get the dealer saying there's no fault. And then you'd argue and then eventually the dealer would say, oh, yep, there's a fault. but it's a manufacturing issue. You need to speak to the manufacturer. We're just a dealer, a franchise dealer. The manufacturer needs to sort it. And then the manufacturer say, no, it's the dealer's fault. Then the dealer needs to do this. And you get passed back and back like a stupid game of ping pong between the dealer and the manufacturer. Instead, with Tesla, you go to Tesla. They are the manufacturer, they are the retailer, they are the seller. If you have a fault, it is their fault. They will not pass the blame to and from their own showroom. It's their own fault. They are Tesla. So there's no blame game. Now, this could just be a fault on the car that you want fixing, and it's very common, this blame game, to go forward and backwards and forward and backwards. But it could be something else, like a sales issue when you bought the car, a fault with the car when you bought the car, and then they're trying to blame the dealer for, oh, well, the dealer must have scratched the car when it got there, so you need the dealer to repaint the scratch on this new car that you caused. Again, with Tesla, it's them. They're the manufacturer, they're the dealer. So if they scratched it, they're going to paint it. They're going to sort any delivery query issues out. You don't get that with other manufacturers. You get the blame game of who caused the fault, throwing him backwards and forward. And I just cut it. Don't like it. If you don't want to take the blame, manufacturers, then pay for it out of your own pocket or find better dealers. At least Tesla will admit it's their fault and they'll fix it. Now, the next one is to do with showrooms, and it's all about being fancy and pretty. Now, I am just a standard independent dealer. This dealership, this premises, the whole place is owned by my dad. My dad's been in the car trade for over 40 years, and he's had various little bits of upgrade, but we don't spend too much on the showroom. We don't have fancy coffee machines. We don't have anything fancy. We still make tea, coffee in the old-fashioned way. Obviously, we're going through a bit of a weird part at the moment with COVID, so, you know, things have changed slightly, but we are basically a very fairly standard showroom. No more fancy than Tesla, if you like. Tesla maybe got a little bit more fancy coffee machine, but that's about it. They don't really have anything too fancy. Now, if you've been to a franchised dealer, Mercedes, Land Rover, Porsche, they all have really fancy showrooms. In fact, some of them now have their own mini coffee bars, like going to an actual coffee shop, like a proper barista serving you proper barista style coffee and a free sandwich included. And that's if you're going in there for a service or you're going and buying a car. They have really fancy shops which are free for the customers, free to use, completely free. What a great service to offer you a free barista coffee and a sandwich instead of just a machine that you have to use yourself. Yeah, great, but you're paying for it as the customer, because these franchises have to fit these fancy shops into certain franchise dealers, because that's what the manufacturer require. So certain manufacturers, Land Rover, Jaguar, Porsche, Mercedes, you know, there's loads of them. They dictate to these franchise dealers, we want the showroom to have these signs, these test drive bay areas with these fancy lights that you have to buy from this one supplier. We want you to have this and we want you to have that. Now, all these costs additional up on top of the franchise costs that the franchisee has to pay. Then they have to pay for this. And how do they pay for this? Well, they have to sell you the car for more money to pay for all these costs that they've got to incur. Tesla, have a very simple approach. They have a showroom, the car's there. It's not too fancy. It's not, it's not drab by any means, but it's not overly priced, cooked to make you feel that you're a special person with this fancy coffee shop. It's very simple and very elegant, and that is going to save you money on the car. So yes, I did comment that, sometimes having a franchise model can result in cheaper cars, but it can also result in very, very expensive stock, because the franchise has to earn this money back one way or another. Tesla don't employ sales staff, and this is my number 5 key point on why the Tesla sales method is better. Commission forces people not to spend time with customers who have questions. Customers who have questions take up valuable time of a salesman, and a salesman that's on commission does not want to spend valuable time with someone who has 2 hours of questions. He wants to go and spend time with the guy who's walked in, who wants to ask, how much is the car, when can I have it? And that's sadly the way the sales industry works. In the motor trade, typically you pay sales staff a very low basic wage, and they earn pretty much 100% of their wage on commission and extras and other bits that they push onto you. And it can lead to some sales staff doing things which are a bit naughty, which is like, I've seen people mention it in the last video, adding on paint protection on the finance and not telling the customer, adding gap onto the finance and not telling the customer, because a couple of quid a month can be snuck onto a finance agreement without some customers knowing, because people don't check their figures properly. You don't get this with Tesla because there is no commission, and it does result in a better buying experience for the customer. I personally do prefer to deal with someone who has a lot of product knowledge and, has a little bit of sales pattern, a little bit of charisma about them, because they've got that knowledge and that information to give you, but they're not after a sale, and there's no push, and there's no would you like to buy it or not sort of routine. I don't like that routine. It's very, very, very toxic. Now, franchise dealers have realised that the Tesla method of not employing sales staff and having really well-trained product knowledge engineers does pay off in rewards of more sales. Companies now don't employ certain sales staff. In certain franchises, they'll have a couple of salesmen that deal with the used and a couple of the new cars, but they've started to employ EV gurus in the franchise setting, which basically are trained staff that know pretty much nothing about all the other cars. They're just specifically trained on EVs, and they're not on commission. They're on a higher basic wage, and they're trained to know everything about the car. And that's due to Tesla. Tesla employed this method first, and other manufacturers are trying to copy it. But essentially, the whole business relies on selling more cars, because the businesses, the franchises, are also on commission. And Tesla showrooms are directly owned by Tesla. It's due for the company's survival to sell cars, but people will buy Teslas and carry on buying Teslas, where on the franchise model, you need to sell more cars to make more money, and that's just business. That's just the way it works. So I do like the Tesla method, and I do prefer it, and I hope all the points that I've listed are, have come across, and I hope you agree with them. And if you have disagreements like you had on my last video, then let me know. Is there something I've missed? Is there something that you prefer about the direct sales method that Tesla employ? Is there something that you really hate about it that I missed in my other video that I did? Then let me know. I'd like to thank all my patrons that have supported my channel through the years. A couple of you dropped out recently over COVID, and I completely understand how financial situations change, but the ones that have remained, thank you very much. Your names are down in the description as always. If you want to become a patron, go and check my link up here. If you want to subscribe to me, click this link down here, and then check out my other videos over here. Thank you very much for watching this week's video. I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.